The season begins inside a school bus full of teenagers, stuck in heavy traffic. A wildfire has broken out in the nearby forest, causing a massive jam. Among the students is a teenage boy named Everett. He's on a call with his psychiatric doctor, discussing his ongoing anxiety issues. He shares how he has already tried yoga and exercise, but nothing seems to help. He's hoping the doctor might prescribe him something to ease his condition. As Everett looks out the window, he starts noticing the fire creeping dangerously close to the road. The bus driver urges everyone to stay in their seats, but the growing threat makes that hard to ignore. Everett can't help but stare outside, worried. He turns to a girl standing near him. Her name is Blake. He points out that people have already abandoned their cars and walked away, suggesting maybe they should leave too. At that moment, everyone's phones start buzzing with alerts that the school is officially closed due to the wildfire. Everett casually asks Blake if she got the message, but she responds with a blank expression. She tells him she doesn't have a phone or email and insists that's her personal preference. Everett finds her behavior strange, but Blake quickly turns the moment around, reminding him that he has anxiety issues too, and she didn't comment on that. Everett is left speechless. Another student named Austin suddenly starts arguing with his classmates. He insists that they need to evacuate immediately if they want to survive. He even approaches the bus driver, trying to convince her to let them out. But the driver refuses and explains that she's responsible for their safety, and if anything happens, her job could be at risk. Frustrated, Austin begins recording the driver on his phone. Seeing this, Blake gets angry. Without warning, she grabs his phone and throws it outside. Austin rushes out of the bus to retrieve it. The moment he steps outside, something happens. Everyone hears strange noises coming from the forest. Suddenly, a large number of animals begin emerging from the woods, clearly terrified and fleeing from the fire. Panic spreads among the students, and they all begin to step off the bus in confusion and fear. The situation quickly turns chaotic. Everett notices that the animals aren't just escaping, but also attacking nearby people. In the middle of the chaos, Austin slips and falls. Everett becomes alarmed. It feels like there's something else out there, something more dangerous than just panicked wildlife. Confused and anxious, Everett glances behind a car and sees a dark, monstrous shadow lurking. The sight makes his heart race with fear. Soon after, a burning car comes speeding toward Everett. In a split second, Blake rushes in and pulls him out of harm's way, saving his life. As she moves a bit farther away, Everett catches a glimpse of something unusual, that there's a visible bite mark on Blake's lower back. He then realizes that he himself has a similar bite on his shoulder. The strange injuries and everything happening around him begin to overwhelm him. In a state of confusion and panic, Everett runs off into the forest. Blake returns home only to find her unemployed father packing up their things. He's in the process of clearing out the house. He tells Blake to look after her autistic younger brother, Danny, since Danny only feels comfortable around her. As Blake begins to settle in, Danny points out something unusual about her jacket, that something stuck to it. When she checks closely, she notices a bite mark on her body. Soon after, she starts to feel unwell. Her skin begins breaking out, and she experiences a sharp, unfamiliar pain. Something is clearly changing inside her, and it's happening fast. Meanwhile, Everett arrives at the hospital with the bite on his shoulder still bothering him. Several of his classmates are already there, recovering from the earlier chaos. When a nurse asks who bit him, Everett says it was a wolf. On the other hand, Blake steps out of the house ready to leave, but just as they're about to go, she realizes Danny is missing. Without wasting a moment, she rushes off to find him. When she finally locates Danny, he quietly points towards some nearby bushes and tells her that someone is there. Blake looks in that direction and spots a creature lurking in the shadows. It's large and menacing. Grabbing Danny, she quickly pulls him away, her heart pounding. Fear grips her as they hurry back, trying to get away from whatever that thing is. Back at the hospital, Everett is under observation. When the doctor and nurse examine him, they're once again surprised because the wound on his shoulder is now barely noticeable. It's strange, considering how severe it had looked when he was first brought in. While the staff discuss the highway accident and the number of animals that died during the chaos, the nurse casually mentions that Everett's parents have been called. This instantly makes Everett anxious. Just then, a nearby landline phone starts ringing in the hospital. When no one picks up, Everett answers it himself. A mysterious voice on the other end warns him to leave the hospital immediately. The caller says it is coming back, and Everett's life is in danger. Startled, Everett asks how the caller knows his name, but the voice doesn't respond to that. Instead, it warns him again that he must get out before the next full moon, or he will be found and killed. Moments later, Everett's parents arrive. He hurriedly hangs up the phone, but as they walk toward him, Everett notices something terrifying, and he collapses. Meanwhile, Blake argues with her father about staying at a motel instead of finding a shelter because they are already full. Her father admits he doesn't have the money for it. Blake then offers the small amount of cash she had secretly saved. Her father accepts the money and they try to find a motel. During the ride, Blake begins to feel lightheaded. She drifts into sleep and has a disturbing dream that she's being bitten by some kind of animal. The entire scene flashes vividly in her mind as if it's not a dream but a memory. Back at the hospital, Everett regains consciousness. His mother scolds him for overreacting to such a small injury, but Everett insists it's not just a minor wound and something is seriously wrong. His mother, trying to calm him down, removes the bandage. To her surprise, the wound really does look tiny now. Everett, confused and frustrated, stares at the area and sees something strange, that his skin is glowing with a reddish light. Alarmed, he asks his parents if they can see it too, but both of them say no. They insist his skin looks completely normal. Suddenly, Everett remembers that everything happening to him is likely happening to Blake too, because she was also bitten by the same creature. He quickly tells his parents that he needs to find her. He makes up his mind to leave the hospital before nightfall, but then his parents inform him that it's already night. Because of the sedative injection, he lost track of time, and it's now 8:30 p.m. Hearing this terrifies Everett. The warning on the phone call echoes in his mind, and he knows time is running out. Meanwhile, Blake and her family check into a motel. Danny turns on the news, which shows footage of animals fleeing from the forest in huge numbers. Their father speaks to government officials, pleading for help, explaining that their house has burned down. But he's met with vague responses and grows more frustrated. Then, noticing Blake's skin, he comments that it's changing. Blake, growing more uncomfortable, doesn't say much. She quietly heads to the bathroom to check herself. In the mirror, her acne seems to have faded, and when she looks at her lower back, the skin is glowing unnaturally and the pain becomes intense. Overwhelmed, she collapses to the floor. But then something strange happens. In the mirror, she sees Everett lying on a hospital bed. At the same time, Everett, from his hospital bed, sees Blake lying in her motel bathroom. It's as if their visions are suddenly linked. Blake quickly gets up, unsettled, and leaves the bathroom. She tries to walk out of the motel room, but her father stops her. He tells her he knows he hasn't been a great father, but he's trying his best. Blake gently replies that she'll be back soon, and with that she walks away into the night. Everett Sr., Harlan, is at a pub when he gets messages from his sister, Luna, about their father, Garrett, a park ranger who is missing. Initially ignoring the messages, Harlan continues his time with a boy, but Luna eventually interrupts and insists he helps her search for Garrett. Harlan dismisses her, saying their father is likely sleeping in the forest, but Luna, frustrated, warns she'll go alone if he doesn't help. She then mentions that her sense of smell have increased significantly. Harlan is taken aback because his hearing strength also increased tenfold, surprised at how much her abilities have developed, even beyond what they were during the full moon. Luna confirms it, noting 2 more nights until the next full moon. Luna also shares that she's tried contacting Garrett several times, and Harlan begins to care, asking how often she's tried. She tells him it's been a lot, and Garrett's never been like this before. Harlan mentions the heavy smoke outside, suggesting it might impair Luna's senses, but Luna insists that his hearing abilities are exactly what they need. Just as they talk, Luna receives a message that the police have found Garrett's truck. They quickly head out to investigate. Kristen Ramsey, the arson investigator, arrives at the hospital with Officer Jang. She asks the head nurse if she can meet the schoolchildren involved in the highway incident. The nurse confirms that a boy named Everett is admitted there. Meanwhile, Everett's parents grow anxious, wondering why the police want to speak to their son. His mother becomes even more worried when she learns that the investigator is from the fire department. As they discuss this, Everett secretly removes his IV line, changes into his own clothes, and sneaks out of the hospital. He pulls up Blake's address on his phone and heads toward her house. At the same time, Blake leaves the motel and begins heading home. As she walks, she starts running faster and faster until she reaches her neighborhood road. Confused and disoriented, she encounters her neighbor's dog, who had always barked at her but now remains silent. She pets the dog and looks around, only to see that her house has burned down in the fire. Harlan and Luna arrive at their father's truck location, where they meet Parisha, their father's park ranger friend. She explains that a large animal, likely from the forest, attacked the truck after a fire started in the woods. Upon examining the truck, they find large claw marks but no sign of their father. Luna suggests that this fire is not ordinary, as a similar fire occurred 18 years ago when Garrett found them in a shape of wolf cubs in the forest. They wonder if Garrett has encountered their real father this time. Harlan believes that Garrett may have found their pack, and Luna worries that if their real father has returned, he won't spare anyone. Meanwhile, Blake arrives at her burnt-down house and is shocked to find everything reduced to ashes. She then meets Everett, who explains that he came looking for answers. Inside, Blake talks about her younger brother, Danny, who was attached to the house due to his autism. Everett asks why she didn't come to the hospital and why she's here now. Everett tells her about the phone call he received, warning her that someone would try to kill her before the next full moon. Everett insists that the creature they encountered on the highway was not ordinary animal but something far more dangerous. He shows her his wound, which has healed rapidly, and then he notices her clearer skin. Blake gets angry, but Everett reveals that he's been experiencing changes too. Just then, he sees the shadow of a wolf in the mirror, and both of them run toward the back of the house to escape. They attempt to exit, but it's sealed by a support beam. Everett breaks it with his bare hands and they escape into the night. While Garrett is wandering through the forest, surrounded by flames, he takes out a voice recorder from his bag and starts recording a message. He explains that he's a park ranger and might not make it out of the forest alive. He tells his children, especially Luna, how much he loves them and that there are things he never got to tell them. He acknowledges Luna's struggles and reassures her that things will change soon, and she might finally find what she's been searching for. He promises that she will find her way, even though he might not be there. He then talks to his son, Harlan, recalling their past when they shared love and happiness, despite their current strained relationship. After recording his message, Garrett wipes his face and, gathering strength, tries to climb a high spot in the forest. Meanwhile, Blake and Everett barely escape with their lives. Blake is in a state of panic, and Everett realizes she's having an anxiety attack. He calmly instructs her in breathing techniques, which Blake initially resists but eventually follows. Gradually, she begins to feel better thanks to Everett's support. Afterward, Blake tells Everett that she needs to go to her father and brother. Everett tries to explain that maybe things will fall into place even there, questioning how the creature knew about her house. Everett reveals that the creature wasn't just an animal, but a werewolf. Just then, Everett receives a call from Kristen, who says she wants to meet him. She believes that one of the teenagers on the school bus might have been involved in the fire, possibly the same person who caused the chaos. This worries Everett and Denny, and he abruptly ends the call. Suddenly, Blake and Everett hear a strange sound and their eyes turn just like Harlan and Luna's when they hear the same noise. The four of them begin running toward the forest, and they all meet at a certain point. Everett realizes that the sound they hear is linked to their transformation. Harlan and Luna are also werewolves, but Everett and Blake could not accept it, insisting it can't be true. As Luna tries to explain further, Harlan interrupts, telling her they don't know what's going on yet. Blake and Everett, confused, ask each other what is happening to them. Everett then realizes that all four of them are here under the full moon because they were bitten, just like him, and now they are all werewolves. Blake panics after hearing the truth and runs away. Everett rushes after her, and Harlan and Luna are forced to follow. They try to stop her, but Blake doesn't slow down until she accidentally bumps into a firefighter and finally stops. Parisha is also there and asks what the four of them are doing. Harlan quickly makes an excuse, and then Parisha offers to drop each of them at their homes. In the car, Everett asks Luna if they really are werewolves. Harlan, not ready to share everything due to trust issues, tries to stop her, but Luna confirms it. She then asks why they were in the forest. Everett explains they followed a voice that called them, and then Luna says they also heard the wolf's howl and followed it. Harlan keeps trying to silence her. Everett then mentions the call he got, warning him that it will kill him before the next full moon. Harlan gets angry and turns on the radio, but they nearly crash into a truck and barely avoid an accident. Luna finally asks if they were bitten. Everett says yes, but when he shows the bite mark, it's gone. Later, Everett gets home, where his parents are furious. His mom slaps him for leaving the hospital without telling anyone, then tells him to go to sleep and they'll talk in the morning. Blake returns to her motel room and checks the bite mark on her back, and it's gone. Her skin now looks smoother and more beautiful, which makes her a little happy. But when she looks in the mirror, she suddenly notices her fangs. She gets scared, but when she looks again, they vanish. As she steps outside, she hears a phone ringing. When she answers, a voice on the other end warns her that she's not safe. She quickly hangs up. Meanwhile, Harlan and Luna arrive home, and Prisha, who had been following them in her car, asks what they were doing in the forest so late. They tell her they were just hanging out. Prisha then shows them a map and says their father is most likely in that area because rangers are trained to go to higher ground during wildfires. She assures them they're doing everything they can to find Garrett and promises them that he's still alive. Then she leaves. Harlan and Luna argue. Luna wants to trust Everett and Blake, but Harlan refuses, fearing their secret could be dangerous. Luna insists that this is their secret too now. Meanwhile, Everett and Blake can't sleep. Their eyes glow yellow and they fall into a deep sleep. Blake dreams she's with Everett, then wakes up confused. She sees something outside and blocks the door with a table. Her brother wakes up and comforts her. Next morning, Everett wakes under his bed with claw marks on his palm. His mom knocks and says investigators are here. Downstairs, Officer Jang and Kristen question him. He says he left the hospital for a friend in danger. When asked for contact info, he says she doesn't have a phone or ID. Kristen suspects someone from the school bus started the fire and hints Everett might know who it was. Harlan and Luna argue again. Luna prepares to search for Garrett, but Harlan says they should wait for Prisha. He reminds her what it did with the Garrett's truck and warns what it might do on a full moon. Then, Harlan takes the truck keys and leaves. Everett studies with his friend Connor, who reveals he was also bitten during the highway accident. He thinks it was a giant mountain lion. When Everett checks his bite, he realizes it's from the same werewolf. Meanwhile, Garrett collapses in the forest, remembering how he once found 2 cubs and tried to send them to a shelter until he realized they weren't animals but werewolves. He gets back up, determined. Blake tests her speed with her brother Danny, but finds she's still slow. Just then, Kristen arrives and asks to question her. Connor goes to the hospital to remove his cast. The doctor says he needs 3 more weeks and gives him a tetanus shot. Right after, Connor collapses in pain. The doctor is shocked he's still conscious after a strong painkiller dose. Later, Connor gets a mysterious call warning him to run, saying the one who bit him can sense his scent from miles away. Scared, Connor leaves the hospital. Meanwhile, Luna feels uneasy during the full moon. She messages Harlan nervously, then imagines a horse entering her house. Just then, she gets a text that Garrett has been found. Garrett, barely alive, is finally rescued by a helicopter and taken to the hospital. Everett visits Blake's house feeling strange due to the full moon. He bonds with Danny and turns on the TV to distract him while he and Blake step away. Blake and Everett share a moment, but Connor calls in panic, saying he's on the 3rd floor and senses the creature nearby. They rush to the hospital. Connor hides, chased by the werewolf, but escapes. Meanwhile, Harlan and Luna also arrive at the hospital to see Garrett, who's in critical condition and moved to the ICU. Blake and Everett split up to find Connor. Connor reaches the hospital back, but her leg cast gets stuck. In pain, he frees it with a rock, but the werewolf sees him and drags him away. Everett finds Connor's cast near the back exit. Just then, police surround him and take him for questioning. Kristen also detains Blake for interrogation. Everett's classmates go to an abandoned building to watch the wildfire, but one shares their location with parents, leading the police to them. They're taken to the station for questioning about the arson. On the way, Everett, anxious about Connor, keeps talking, but Harlan warns him to stay quiet. Kristen assures them she's just asking questions, not arresting anyone. At the station, they see other classmates, including Phoebe, Blake's ex-best friend. She tells Blake she named her in the investigation, convinced Blake started the fire. Blake is shocked and angry. Blake wants to confess the truth, but Harlan insists they all stick to a story that they were smoking weed. Everett adds he doesn't smoke but eats it for anxiety. They're questioned separately. When Officer Miller tries to question Harlan, Kristen steps in and takes over. She later interviews Everett, turns on white noise for privacy, and questions him about Connor fleeing the hospital. She suspects Connor is linked to the fire, but Everett denies it. Harlan overhears Everett's entire conversation with Kristen with his special hearing ability. When Kristen mentions a witness saw them near the fire's origin point, Everett says they were smoking weed. She asks how often, and he admits it was just once. When she asks the type, he says edibles. Harlan, shocked, bursts in angrily, telling him to just say the others smoked while he ate it. Everett hears Harlan's voice in his mind and repeats it during questioning. Harlan is stunned that Everett can hear him. Everett confirms it, and Luna and Blake reveal they can also hear each other. All 4 are shocked by this shared ability. Everett insists they should be out looking for Connor instead of sitting here, but Harlan tells him to just answer the questions quietly. Officer Miller sees Harlan talking to himself and questions him. When Harlan refuses to speak without a lawyer, Miller gets aggressive, but Garrett arrives just in time, warning Miller to back off. He rescues his son and daughter. Kristen tries to stop them, but Garrett says no one's speaking without a lawyer. Kristen claims the kids came voluntarily, but Blake denies it. Luna whispers to Garrett that Everett and Blake are like them. Garrett takes Everett and Blake with him too. In the car, Everett tells Garrett about the strange calls they've been receiving, explaining that everyone's condition has worsened. They head to Garrett's house to get the full picture of what's happening. Back at the police station, Officer Miller is arguing with Kristen, insisting that if he had 5 minutes alone with the kids, he could get confessions out of them. Kristen, furious, warns him that if he lays a hand on the kids again, he will be suspended. Miller backs off and leaves the station. At Garrett's house, Garrett takes Harlan and Luna into a separate room, discussing the situation. He agrees with Harlan that they are different from the others, as they've been turned into werewolves by a bite. With the full moon approaching, Garrett is worried about what might happen to them. Everett then reveals that while they were being questioned, all 4 of them could hear each other, indicating they were somehow connected. Harlan, still struggling with trust issues, refuses to accept that they can form a pack. Luna, however, adds that their eyes were glowing yellow in the woods at the same time. Meanwhile, outside the room, Blake is having an imaginary conversation, claiming Everett had intimate moments with her, but this isn't true. She then suggests that maybe they should stop this because she doesn't want to put her dad and Danny in danger. She mentions receiving receiving a call warning her that she's not safe, which Blake assumes is for her family, not her. As they talk, Harlan plays a message from Phoebe, who is cursing Blake for allegedly puncturing her car tires. She believes Blake was behind it, which makes Blake confused. Blake insists she didn't do anything, and Garrett, trusting her, heads to Phoebe's house to check things out. He tells the group to stay at the house for 20 minutes and promises to return soon. As Garrett steps outside, Officer Miller is already waiting. Inside, the four of them are discussing their unique abilities that Harlan can hear from afar. Luna can smell over long distances, Blake is very fast, and Everett is extremely strong. They realize someone might be outside when they hear a knock on the door. They panic, but it's Officer Miller, who claims he only wants to ask some questions. Blake refuses to let him in without a warrant. Miller insists that he just wants to talk to Harlan outside for 5 minutes. Harlan agrees and goes outside to meet him. Miller confronts Harlan, slamming his head against the wall, trying to get him to confess. Inside, Luna calls her father, Garrett, informing him that Miller has come to the house. Garrett reverses his car and prepares to intervene. Miller strikes Harlan again, but just then, Werewolf arrives and takes Miller away. Luna tells her father everything that happened, and Garrett instructs her to go to the stable, where he retrieves a special rifle with silver bullets, preparing for what may come. Meanwhile, Everett and Blake, which were previously hidden in a room to avoid Miller, come out, only to find the house empty. As they begin to leave, Everett receives a call warning them not to leave the house, as the full moon is about to end, and they will be safest inside. Blake ignores the message and steps outside, with Everett following her because she believes they won't be safe anywhere else. As they step out, Werewolf appears, dangerously close to Everett, but doing nothing. Just then, Harlan arrives and shoots a bullet into the air with a rifle, causing the werewolf to panic and flee. Later, Everett wonders why Werewolf didn't kill him, to which Luna suggests that maybe he didn't want to, and that it's because they're all part of his pack now. When Garrett returns home, the four of them are sitting on the couch. Harlan asks Garrett about the silver bullets, and Garrett confirms that they are made from real silver. Harlan then asks who made the bullets, and Garrett answers that he did. Both men share a moment with tears in their eyes as they realize Garrett made the bullets to kill them. At the station, Kristen is questioning Everett's classmate, Austin. Kristen urges him to tell the truth if he knows anything. Austin admits that he can't sleep and can't close his eyes without thinking about what he saw during highway accident. He reveals that he saw a creature, and when his mother forces him to explain what it looked like, Austin says no one would believe him. Kristen suggests that maybe he's talking about the creature that is large, with dark fur, long fangs, and claws. Then she points to pictures on the board behind them, hinting that the creature resembles one of them. Kristen tells him that there is nothing like that, and it was just their trauma. And due to smoke, he along with the others must have confused the ram with the monster. Hearing this, Austin angrily leaves. Meanwhile, Garrett is outside and the kids are worried about him. After a short while, he returns, mentioning that it has fled. He tells them they need to take action now, confirming that the silver bullets he made are real and effective, and he believes they can work. Then Harlan asks Garrett if he really made the bullets to kill them. Garrett explains that when he first met them, they were wolves, and he had no idea what they were turning into. He was alone and afraid, and he thought he had to protect himself. But over time, he realizes they're human beings like him. Meanwhile, Kristen goes back to the hospital's backside to investigate where the Connor had disappeared. There, she senses someone else nearby. She gets scared, but then a wounded animal appears. It has deep claw marks on its stomach and collapses right in front of her. Later, Garrett drops Blake and Everett home. He tells them they need to return to school and live normally, because this is their life now. Both go inside and try to sleep. The next day, Garrett talks to Prisha and tells her that the guy calling the kids probably is the arsonist. Prisha suggests it's time to tell Luna and Harlan that she knows about them too, but Garrett says it's not the right time. They are very angry right now, and telling them this would only make the things worse. Prisha goes quiet. Then Everett starts having another panic attack during class, and it spreads to the others. All four rush to the bathroom. Everett says he can't control it. When Harlan and Everett argue, Harlan punches the mirror in anger and his fangs suddenly emerge. They all get scared. Blake realizes their claws and fangs might come out when they get emotional, and they could end up hurting people. She says they should stay away from each other. Harlan agrees, warning them that this is how real wolf packs behave. All of them grow worried and Blake walks away. Everett follows her. Garrett visits Kristen and tells her he wants to help. Kristen replies that Park Ranger Prisha is already working with her, but Garrett insists that he knows this fire better than anyone. Finally, Kristen takes him to morgue and shows him the dead animal. She asks him to guess what kind of creature did this. Garrett explains it was likely a California black bear, which is taller with long claws that can tear through steel, just like the marks on his truck. Kristen finds that hard to believe. Garrett then reveals that she should be looking for a second incendiary device because there were 2 ignition points in the fire. Kristen is shocked. Later, Officer Jang informs Kristen that Miller's car was found parked not far from Garrett's house. Kristen gets angry, assuming Miller tried to force a confession out of the teenagers. She says he's off the task force and if Jang wants to find him, he can do it alone. Meanwhile, Blake is getting ready for her part-time job at the parking garage. Her dad asks her to take Danny along because he has an interview and has to go there. He gives her a phone for her safety. Blake refuses to take it. He mentions someone kept calling the cell phone. Blake realizes it might be the same anonymous caller. When she asks Danny about the call, he says the man on the line was asking for her. But when she presses for more details, Danny stays silent. Blake then grabs his writing pad, where he has written that she won't survive without them. She gets scared. Just then, her phone starts ringing again. And panicked, Blake rushes outside. Austin requests Luna to draw the creature he saw on the highway because of her excellent drawing skills, because no one believes him. But Luna, who has a crush on Austin, warns him to run fast if he sees it again. At the parking garage, Blake helps Phoebe and Tia when the printer breaks. Suddenly, Danny panics and accidentally hits Blake. She comforts him. Just then, a black car appears, and after that, Blake notices that something is wrong. Fearing for her friends, she tells Danny to wait and rushes to check on them. Meanwhile, Danny senses something outside. He hides when he sees the werewolf there. Blake returns to find the cabin door open and Danny missing. She searches everywhere and screams his name from the rooftop. She calls her dad, but he doesn't answer. Then Everett appears carrying Danny. Blake is relieved and notices werewolf hairs in Danny's hand. When she asks how Everett got there so fast, he says he heard her call but doesn't remember anything else. Harlan and Luna also arrive, saying they heard a howl, not a scream. Austin brings Luna's drawing to Kristen's office and says it's for another addition to her board. Kristen visits the site where Officer Miller's car was found. She spots blood on a tree and realizes something bad happened there. Meanwhile, the creature drags Officer Miller to an abandoned construction site and dumps him among a pile of other dead bodies. At Garrett's house, Harlan asks Blake why it came after Danny. She explains Danny hit her, but it was not intentional. So maybe to protect her, he saw Danny as a threat. Harlan adds, maybe he also killed the Miller because Harlan was angry at him too. Everett asks then why he killed Connor as he was also bitten and part of them. Luna suggests maybe due to his broken leg, making him weak in the pack just like a lame horse is put down. Suddenly, an unknown number calls. They all panic. Harlan says not to answer, but Everett insists this caller saved him once and might help again. Then Luna and Harlan's phones also start ringing. As Everett answers, a voice recites poetry about a king named Lycaon who tried to feed human flesh to Zeus. Angering him, Zeus struck his kingdom and turned Lycaon into a wolf. Everett suggests he might be the first werewolf. The voice returns, saying the wolf kills every night because it's in his nature, but they can stop it. When they ask how, the voice says Blake knows and that's why she's there. Blake says they'll stop it together. Everett gets a location on his phone, so the group rushes there. Harlan drives fast. When they arrive, they find a woman trapped in an overturned car. As Everett and Harlan try to open the door, the creature grabs her and vanishes. Terrified, they flee. Blake insists the creature is killing for them, so they must stop it. Everett agrees and says that they will. Meanwhile, Kristen visits the school. A teacher shows her a 3D printer, and she realizes the arsonist used it to make igniters, so it is a student. During class, Blake and Everett enter. Kristen then asks Officer Jang about the teen who mentioned the construction site, and he points to Cyrus Nix. Later, the four regroup in the restroom. Luna says Cyrus was taken for questioning. Everett asks Harlan if he knows Cyrus's dad is a firefighter, and Harlan confirms that his own dad died in that fire. Luna doubts Cyrus is the arsonist because he seems too kind. Then Everett shows a new location on his phone, and it's Tia's house. Since Tia is still at school, they suspect it will go there tonight. Harlan mentions there's a small party at Tia's house with limited invites. Blake says she can't get in, but Everett promises to find a way. Kristen questions Cyrus about his father. He says all he knows is that a deadly fire broke out 17 years ago and his dad died in it. Kristen senses a connection between that fire and the current events. Later, Harlan meets Cody, a drug supplier who also studies in school at the gym and buys some mushrooms. When Cody asks why, Harlan says it's for a party, so Cody invites himself too. Meanwhile, Everett trains at the gym, frustrated that he couldn't show his strength last night while trying to open the car door. Harlan joins and they compete, lifting heavier plates. Their silent rivalry turns into mutual respect when Everett helps Harlan finish a set, and they bond, realizing their powers might connect. Harlan then tells Everett that as a kid, he once saw a wolf in the woods and felt a strange bond, that it might have been his real father. That night, they all head to Tia's party. At the gate, Phoebe initially blocks them, but when Harlan shows mushrooms, Tia invites them in. They start enjoying the party, take mushrooms, and loosen up. Cody arrives with more, and the group joins in to blend with the crowd. Kristen visits the abandoned construction building with her team. From the highest point, she looks over the square. Garrett tells Kristen he knows there's a link between this fire and the one many years ago, but Harlan and Luna are not a part of it. He assures her they had nothing to do with starting either fire. Years ago, he found them during that fire and tried placing them in a shelter. They had no family, so Garrett adopted them. Kristen then shows Garrett satellite images revealing that the fire started from 2 points, spread by drones, and the arsonist was probably standing there to see the fire spread. Kristen points to a locked elevator. Guard goes to fetch the keys while the others check the building. When he unlocks the elevator, they discover piles of dead bodies inside. Shocked, the guard wonders who did this. Kristen quickly strikes him on the head and dumps him among the bodies. Meanwhile, at Tia's party, everyone is swimming and having fun. Everett jumps into the pool too. Later, outside the house, Harlan senses someone hiding in the bushes. He signals quietly. When Cyrus tries to exchange numbers with him, Harlan calls his phone from Cyrus' cell and notices it shows no caller ID, making him suspicious. Inside, Luna roams the house and feels its presence nearby. She enters a room where Austin is already playing the piano. She sits beside him, and together they play, feeling a brief moment of peace. At the party, Everett and Blake grow closer, and finally Everett kisses her. Soon after, Phoebe starts yelling at Blake, saying she wasn't even invited. Angry, Harlan plays a voice note that Phoebe had once sent him, embarrassing her in front of everyone. Austin turns the voice note into a remix and starts dancing to it, which makes Phoebe uncomfortable. Upset, Blake grabs Austin's phone and throws it into the pool. As Austin jumps into the pool to retrieve it, he notices something terrifying in the water. Panicking, he comes out quickly and goes inside. The others also spot a dark shadow in the pool and quickly rush inside, locking all the doors. Everyone is locked inside Tia's house, having secured all the doors. When they see a figure behind the wall, they panic and move away from the doors. Some of the kids think it's just an ordinary animal, but the others consider it much more dangerous, so they decide not to go outside. Then, Everett notices one of the students is in a deep panic, repeating that he can't remember his name. Everett suspects it's due to the mushrooms, as the student keeps saying he can't remember. Meanwhile, the students turn off the lights in the house. One of the students suggests that it might be a possum, but Austin disagrees, pointing out that it wasn't a possum and suggesting that Everett had seen it too. Everett confirms that it's the same creature they saw during the freeway accident. This news scares everyone further. Everett explains that it is a black bear, but Austin is not convinced and believes it is something else. He insists that he knows what he saw and leaves them. Everett starts to think about the student who couldn't remember his name and wonders where he might be. At that moment, someone mentions that he might have gone outside. So, Harlan and Cyrus decide to go check outside, offering to help him find out. On the other side, Phoebe gets angry at Blake, asking her why she ghosted her and never responded to her emails or calls. Blake finally reveals that a while ago, her mom was messaging a man, and her dad had forced her to open her mom's phone. That's why Blake started avoiding calls and emails, because it all led to her parents' divorce, and her life became hell because of phone. Phoebe sympathizes with her. Meanwhile, the police arrive to search for Cyrus after Officer Jang finds something in his room. As soon as Garrett enters the house, Everett informs him that the it has arrived and is outside. Harlan and Cyrus are also outside, and Harlan feels the werewolf is nearby. He tells Cyrus to go inside while he checks the situation. As they move toward the house, Harlan spots the werewolf from a distance but doesn't tell Cyrus. As soon as Cyrus turns around and sees the werewolf, Kristen comes there, who quickly takes action, aiming her gun at it. He orders them to run, and the gunshot echoes through the area. Garrett rushes toward the gunfire carrying silver bullets, and Harlan receives a message from Luna telling him that the police is there to take Cyrus. So Harlan takes Cyrus with him. On the other hand, Kristen talks to the werewolf, saying she knows that it can feel its heartbeat, and she isn't scared. She offers her help, but it continues to resist. And after a while, it calls for the help, but soon more police arrive and the werewolf flees. Finally, Garrett spots it again and shoots the silver bullet, but it manages to escape once more. The party ends, and everyone heads home. Meanwhile, Harlan brings Cyrus to his stable and asks if he started the fire. Cyrus denies it, but admits that his number is on a blacklist due to people asking about his father's death, which they suspected involved a wolf, not a fire. Harlan believes him after this explanation. At home, Everett is asked why he's not taking his pills. He claims he's fine, but his father insists he take them. He reluctantly agrees, but later throws the pill away in the bathroom. He secretly meets Blake, where they continue their previous closeness. Cyrus and Harlan settle in the stable. Meanwhile, at Tia's house, Phoebe is swimming and feels something is off. Soon, werewolf attacks her. As it starts raining, Austin sees Phoebe's dead body being dragged away, which terrifies him, but he does not tell anyone because no one will believe him. Kristen visits Garrett's house looking for Harlan. She's told the kids are asleep and could go check their rooms, but she says there is no need for that. The next morning, the group talks to Cyrus. He reveals that his father's body was never found, and he was often called with strange theories. He mentions a witness, Malcolm, who now works in a hospital but believes the fire wasn't caused by an arsonist, but by a wolf. The next day, Garrett visits the station and tells Kristen that Harlan left early, so he couldn't take him to the station. Just then, Officer Jang arrives and reports that Phoebe is missing. He then directs Harlan and Cyrus to be together, suspecting they might be involved since Officer Miller's car was found near their place. Garrett denies knowing where Cyrus is, and a heated argument ensues. Kristen interrupts, saying they're all on the same team, and questions why Garrett would lie. Garrett agrees and leaves. Later, the group meets Malcolm at the hospital. At first, he is reluctant to share anything, but when Luna mentions werewolf, he takes them to an abandoned room. There, Malcolm explains that years ago, 6 people were trapped by a fire and tried to get control of the situation. When the wind shifted, the fire worsened, and they couldn't return to safety. Their only escape was through a track where a wolf was standing in their path, which was massive and unlike anything they'd ever seen. The fire was behind them, and the only way out was to cross the track. One of their group members tried to throw a stone at it to scare it off, but that only made it angrier, preventing them from escaping. Some had handguns, but even firing rounds didn't help. Malcolm continues, saying that one of them shot the wolf. It fell down, but immediately got back up. They fired about 40 to 60 rounds, but it kept standing. Eventually, Cyrus's father shot it between the eyes, and even though it fell, it was still breathing. They thought it was dead, tried to move its body near the fire, expecting it to catch the fire, but the fire changed it into a monster. It had become stronger, with muscles growing, and its eyes started glowing. Malcolm then explains soon a 50-foot-tall tree fell on it, and they thought it was it. So, Luna asks who killed the rest of the group, and Malcolm says he wasn't alone in the woods. Everett suggests the wolf was protecting its pack and preventing them from escaping. Malcolm adds that there was her mate also. Malcolm recalls how they ran out of bullets and she seemed to know they were helpless. She charged at them, and he could only hear the screams of the others as they died, because he ran as fast as he could to save his life. Meanwhile, Garrett meets Cyrus at the stable and asks if he started the fire. Cyrus denies it. Garrett says there are people who don't believe him, but he's determined to convince them, and he gives him over to the police. After they all gather, Everett suggests that the person who called them might be the arsonist, knowing what a werewolf can become in fire. Perhaps that's why he set the fire, to lure the wolf out and transform it into a killer. They notice the lights flicker, and when they approach the stable, they find Garrett there. Harlan confronts him, asking why he handed Cyrus over to the police, but Garrett insists that the werewolf is outside, killing their friends, and that he did it all for Cyrus's safety. He believes he will clear his name in court and be released soon. Harlan, in anger, punches Garrett, but just then, the group's eyes start to change, and they all seem to be attacking Garrett. At that moment, Parisha enters with a rifle, but Garrett stops her. He calls out to Harlan by name, asking him to remember who he is, and the group's eyes begin changing. Luna questions Garrett about how he did this. He explains that he had used this tactic before when Luna killed his horse as a child, and that calling them by their true name might make them remember who they are. Harlan then acknowledges that Garrett is his father, apologizing to him. Garrett finally admits that the werewolf he saw in the forest isn't his father, confirming that the it was a boy. Everett then realizes the boy he saw at the party, who couldn't remember his name, was Baron. When asked how he knew this, Everett says he's not sure, but he's certain about it. Garrett then says that Baron is actually their brother, though Harlan argues that Baron is part of the pack. Later, when Everett is in his room, he notices Baron sitting naked in the corner. He's unsure whether Baron is really there, or if he's hallucinating. Following him, he finds Baron outside and the two talk. Baron insists he isn't killing anyone and feels that everything is wrong, but he's increasingly confused. Just then, Everett's mother comes down the stairs, and he realizes it's morning. Wondering if he's been hallucinating everything, Everett calls the others together and tells them about seeing Baron, unsure if it was real or in his head. Luna suggests it might be a connection due to his anxiety, as pack members can sense each other's emotions. Everett wonders if there's a way to change Baron back into a human, fearing that if he kills Austin, it would be their fault. When they ask how he knew Austin was the next target, he explains that it was the same music Austin had played, and now he's sure the next target is Austin. Everett says they'll capture Baron and figure out how to return him to his human form. They've recently learned that silver bullets work on them, and they all agree on this plan. Later, while Garrett is sleeping in his office, Kristen visits him. Garrett quickly hides the silver bullets and gun. Kristen hands him a bullet, explaining that the lab believes it's actually silver-plated, possibly the one Garrett used the night before. Garrett makes an excuse, saying he simply likes those bullets. Then Kristen mentions bringing Harlan into the office, claiming he wouldn't need any backup, as if he were his own son. Garrett agrees to this. Meanwhile, when Danny returns to his motel room, he finds the door broken. He reluctantly enters the room and opens the bathroom door and discovers a lot of blood. He finds Phoebe's dead body in the bathtub. Kristen and the police officers rush to the scene and she questions about Blake, but it turns out Blake isn't there. Blake, however, is at Garrett's house with the others. Later, Blake tells Everett that they're moving to an apartment and she needs to visit her family for help. Everett offers her a ride, but when he asks his mother for the car keys, she refuses, saying she doesn't trust him and he is still a child. He angrily grabs the keys from the table, dismissing her. Blake is then dropped off at the hotel. Upon seeing the police officers, she becomes confused, realizing there's a dead body in their room. She wonders how it got there. Everett tells her he's looking for Harlan and doesn't know what to do next. As he leaves, Danny starts to tell Blake about seeing Kristen somewhere, but she dismisses him and ignores his comments. Later, Everett tells Harlan that in order to change Baron back into human form, they must believe in him first. They need to place him in a freezing room, stopping his heart while his brain remains active. Using CPR techniques, they can restart his heart, offering their last chance to save him. Everett then reveals that their special abilities can be useful in this situation. Moreover, he adds that there's a special freezer room in Kristen's office basement that can reach 70 degrees Celsius, ideal for the procedure. However, the group wonders how Baron will get there. Blake suggests they can use Austin as bait to get him there. Eventually, Luna agrees to the plan after a heartfelt conversation with Austin, where she admits her feelings for him. Meanwhile, Garrett and Kristen return to the elevator room to check it again. Kristen had last mentioned that the guard hadn't returned, so she couldn't finish her investigation. As they check the area, past memories go through Kristen's mind where she kills the hotshot crew many years back, but Malcolm survives, revealing that she is the mate. Soon, she sidelines her memories and comes into the present. They discover dead bodies in the elevator. Garrett convinces Kristen not to inform the police, as this would lead the case to the FBI, sidelining their investigation. The creature responsible for these killings would never be caught, and the families involved would be in danger. Kristen agrees to keep it quiet, as it is also good for her. Later, Everett prepares a silver-coated knife, just in case they need it in an emergency. At that moment, Cody arrives with epinephrine to revive Baron. Luna is on the rooftop with Austin when the werewolf appears, but it doesn't attack because Luna is present. To provoke the werewolf, Luna asks Austin to hit her, but he refuses. In frustration, Luna hits him instead. Austin tries to stop her, but suddenly he moves in to kiss her. This enrages the werewolf, who becomes furious and charges towards Austin. Austin runs down the stairs and locks the door behind him. The werewolf, now seeing Austin flee, follows him. But instead of Austin, it is Blake, who is wearing clothes similar to Austin's. Blake runs swiftly, heading towards the freezer room, where Everett and Harlan are also hiding. The werewolf chases Blake, but she manages to escape into the room. The werewolf attacks Blake, but just then, Everett arrives and grabs its punch to stop it. The werewolf throws Everett aside and even pushes Harlan away. After that, Everett says that its name is Baron. Hearing this, the werewolf calms down a little. Quickly, they all push it into the freezer and lock the door. The werewolf tries with full force to break the gate, but they all hold it together to strengthen the freezer door. Slowly, its heartbeat starts to slow down, and finally, it stops. They open the gate and find Baron back in his human form. But just as they are about to inject him with epinephrine, Austin suddenly appears and stabs the silver-coated knife straight into Baron's heart. They all panic, completely confused about what to do. Everett quickly pulls the knife out, and together they carry Baron to Everett's room. They know they can't take him to a hospital. Just then, Everett's phone starts ringing. He answers, and on the other side, someone warns him that the bleeding won't stop unless the silver is fully removed. They tell him to act fast, because if Baron dies, their bond will break. When they still don't understand, the voice tells them to ask Blake because Blake is already starting to feel it. Now Everett finally understands everything. He realizes that their strength and speed are connected to Baron. If Baron dies, their bond will break, and they will become normal humans again. Hearing this, Blake says it's better if Baron dies. Luna suggests they should talk to Garrett about it, but Everett refuses. He fears that Garrett might hand Baron over to the cops, just like he did before. They struggle with what to do, knowing they have only about an hour before Everett's parents return home. Meanwhile, they start thinking about Baron's real power, and that is turning others into werewolves. On the other side, Luna talks to Harlan. Harlan says Prisha already knew about them, and had just pretended otherwise because she was trained as a backup in case things go sidesway by Garrett. Later, Everett and Blake accidentally fall asleep. When they wake up, Blake talks about leaving before things get worse, but Everett says he doesn't want to be normal again. His anxiety is gone, he feels stronger than ever, and now he finally wants to accept who he truly is and use his powers to help others. After that, Harlan and Luna head to Kristen's office to discuss things properly. Harlan talks privately with Cyrus in a room, turning on the white noise machine. Cyrus pleads with him not to expose him, saying he didn't start this recent fire. He admits he is an arsonist and had once set fire to some housing developments, but no one was hurt. Harlan promises to help him. Meanwhile, Officer Jang bursts into the office, informing them that the freezer room must be opened because 18 bodies have been found at the construction site. An anonymous tip led them there. Garrett quickly tells Harlan and Luna to go home and stay away from this chaos. As Harlan and Luna leave, they find a voice recorder in Harlan's pocket. It's Garrett's, containing his final recorded message for them before he died. Listening to it, both Harlan and Luna tear up, and they finally decide to reveal everything to Garrett. Meanwhile, Blake brings Danny to Everett's house. The moment Danny sees Barron, he panics, hinting that he recognizes him. Blake keeps asking Danny where he saw her, and he keeps saying parking garage. Then Blake realizes Danny had seen Kristen and Barron there. Everett also remembers Kristen shaking his hand, and Blake recalls the same thing happening with her. Suddenly, Everett pieces everything together and says that the person calling them might actually be Kristen. At that moment, Garrett arrives at Everett's house with Harlan and Luna. They take Barron to the hospital while the others wait in the garage. Everett says he can't wait anymore and decides to check inside. Harlan follows him. Meanwhile, Danny's father arrives at Everett's house and Kristen is with them. They've come to take Danny, planning to hand them over to social services since they can't keep them anymore. At the hospital, Everett is told he can't go inside, but Harlan is allowed. The cops have been called because the case is complicated. He sits down to wait, but then sees his father arrive with 2 men. He claims Everett's behavior is dangerous and that he threatened his mom. They plan to place him in a detention cell. Everett tries to defend himself, saying none of it is true. But his father insists that Everett stole her car keys and brought a stabbed man to his house, where there's blood everywhere. The 2 men then take Everett away. As Harlan heads inside, he finds Cody there and asks what he's doing. Cody says he came to meet his dad who works here, and that's how they got the epinephrine shots earlier. When Harlan asks his dad's name, Cody reveals it's Malcolm. Harlan immediately understands everything. Meanwhile, Malcolm is taking Barron out of the hospital. When Barron asks where they're going, Malcolm says they're going to meet his mother, the one who started the fire. She's the reason people transformed through the fire, and she killed so many just to find Barron. Slowly, Barron's memories return. He remembers how the forest fire reached him and turned him into a monster, but now he's too weak to fight back. Meanwhile, when Kristen arrives at the hospital, Garrett is furious. He tells her he was informed that Barron was taken for surgery, but now no one can find him. On Barron's bed, they find a cap belonging to a former firefighter. Garrett asks Kristen if she recognizes it, and she says it belonged to Malcolm, who was once their prime arson suspect before Cyrus. Kristen then tells Garrett it's his turn to trust her now, just like he once told her to trust him. They both leave the hospital together, and at the same time, Officer Jang arrives with more police and quietly arrests Harlan for Officer Miller's murder, even though Harlan is confused and says nothing. Kristen reaches an abandoned firefighter shelter where Malcolm shows up. She immediately asks him where Barron is, but Malcolm says it's too late now. He reveals that while he only plated the axe with silver, he used real silver in the bullets. Then he pulls out his gun, forcing Kristen to hide. She quickly shoots Malcolm in the leg to stop him. Meanwhile, Garrett also fires at Malcolm, and spotting Barron, rushes over to help him. Just then, Kristen gets an anonymous call. The caller tells her she's made a huge mistake thinking she can turn the 4 teens into a real pack because they can't survive a single day without him. He reminds her that he has been helping them at every step, including now. When Kristen asks how, he reveals he had called Garrett earlier too. Suddenly, Kristen realizes that Garrett knows everything, including that she is the real mother of Harlan and Luna. Garrett, still holding Barron, points gun at Kristen and demands to know who she really is. She finally puts her gun down and admits the truth that she is Harlan and Luna's biological mother, and Barron is their brother. She explains that Barron will die soon if they don't help him, and only the 4 teens together can save him and turn him fully human again. Garrett asks if the kids know the truth. Kristen admits they are still learning and don't fully trust her yet. Barron, overhearing this, says he doesn't trust her either. Kristen insists he should because just like them, she is a werewolf too, and her special power is healing. She then uses her ability to heal Barron's wounds. Still unsure, Garrett lowers his gun a little after seeing Kristen's powers. However, Malcolm, who has been listening to everything, suddenly points his gun at them. Kristen quickly runs and disarms Malcolm, triggering a heated fight between them. Malcolm grabs his silver-plated axe, preparing to strike, but Kristen manages to choke him, trying to end it. Just as things get intense, Garrett arrives and demands that Malcolm must stay alive. Finally, Kristen handcuffs Malcolm to a car, securing him. She then asks him if he understands what will happen if she dies. Garrett, witnessing all of this, says that if Kristen dies, Luna and Harlan will be the next to die as well. Kristen explains that this has a detailed impact on the ecosystem, and since the wolves return to the national park, they are apex predators, and they are capable of redirecting rivers. Garrett acknowledges this, but adds that she wants to keep them safe so that she can create more werewolves using Baron's ability. Kristen insists that she wants her family back, nothing more. Kristen tells Garrett that he has been a good parent, taking care of her children, and that Baron will turn out like Harlan if he has them both. She also says that Blake and her brother deserve a normal life, which they can only have with help. Everett won't need to take on more burdens, and Luna will eventually find the pack she's been searching for. Harlan will have the father he's always wanted, in Garrett's form. Garrett then says that he does not want a human father, so Kristen confirms that he's the one for them, and just as they conclude this conversation, Baron is seen standing behind Garrett ready to attack him to make him a werewolf. The season ends there.